Get that blind girl in her wheelchair off our clean sidewalks, Eleanor yelled, looming over the shaken teenager. Mia struggled to catch her balance, never dreaming her normal walk home would culminate with her stranded in the middle of traffic, or that her own father, a traffic policeman, would be watching from the safety of his patrol car. To find out what happens next, comment where you're viewing from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for further tales of compassion versus cruelty. Hey, you in the wheelchair, you don't belong here. The shrill voice sliced through the soft afternoon, halting Mia immediately. At just 14 years old, and blind and wheelchair-bound since an accident the previous year, Mia had learned to move through the world differently, but never had she faced such direct hostility. I'm only trying to get home from school, she said quietly, her fingers halting on her wheelchair rims. The sharp click of heels grew louder. This is a private area. These are sidewalks of luxury paid for at great expense by our homeowners, and your tires are wearing them down. Mia swiveled her head in the direction of the speaker, silently hoping again that she could perceive who was speaking. I'm sorry, but this sidewalk belongs to the public. I use this route daily. I'm Eleanor Blackwell, president of the Clearwater Heights HOA, the woman snapped, her voice laced with authority and disdain. And I decide who walks these paths. And your situation? It's lowering our property values. Take another path. Mia's cheeks flushed with shame. She could hear others slowing down, obviously eavesdropping. She took a deep breath, fighting to remain calm as her heart pounded. Ma'am, I must take it one way. The other streets are being worked on, and the detours are not accessible for someone in my state. Not my problem, Eleanor replied blandly. This is a matter of maintaining standards and worth. Leave. Now. Tension around them grew tighter like a rope. Mia took a stand, fingers gripping the armrests of her chair. I am well within my rights to be on this public sidewalk. Something within Eleanor seemed to break. Have you got the nerve to speak back to me? I've been running this organization for more than a decade. Before Mia could say anything, she sensed a pair of manicured hands grab her chair handles. With a jerky shove, Eleanor pushed her ahead at a blurring pace. What's the matter? Mia shrieked, confused as the world around her dissolved in her head. I'm taking you off our property, Eleanor taunted, since you couldn't get the hint. Mia struggled, reaching for her wheels, but Eleanor pushed harder, pushing her hands aside. Stop! You don't get it. I can't see where we're going. The soundscape abruptly shifted, from serene suburban background noise to screaming engines. The even sidewalk yielded to rough asphalt. A blasting horn cut through the air. In icy clarity, Mia saw what had occurred. Are we in the street? Panic flooded her. We're in traffic, aren't we? Find your own way home, Eleanor said icily, giving the wheelchair one final shove. And don't you ever come back to Clearwater Heights. Mia stood transfixed in blind terror. Cars shrieked around her, brakes crashing, horns blaring. Blind, alone, and stranded in a wheelchair in the middle of an intersection, she could do nothing but scream, Help! Someone! Please help me! More horns were sounded, adding to the first as drivers saw the blind girl, situated in her wheelchair, tied helplessly in the middle of the busy intersection. Move! Someone yelled from within a car, but Mia couldn't. She was unaware of what direction was safe. Panicked, she attempted to propel her wheelchair in any direction, anywhere. But every blaring horn merely added to her confusion. A blast of wind whipped her hair as a car careened past inches from her face. Mia! That voice, clear, firm, familiar, cut through the din like a lifeline. It was her father. Dad, I'm here, she shouted, turning toward the sound. I can't see. I don't know where I am. Another screech of brakes rang out as a vehicle narrowly missed her. Then, running footsteps. In seconds, strong hands gripped her wheelchair and guided it out of the road. I've got you, mija. I've got you, said Officer David Martinez, his voice trembling with terror as he pulled her to safety on the sidewalk. Mia clung to him, sobbing uncontrollably. She pushed me, Dad, into traffic. She left me there, to die. David's voice had changed. It was something Mia never heard from him before. Hard, cutting, and full of rage. Who did this? He growled. Between sobbing into pieces, Mia replied, "That HOA woman, Eleanor Blackwell, she said I was depreciating property value, said I was trespassing due to the scratch marks from my wheelchair." "You should have considered that before trespassing," Eleanor had snarled previously, pushing the wheelchair ahead. "Perhaps this will teach you to be mindful of private property." And then suddenly the pavement beneath Mia's wheels had changed from sidewalk to street. The noises around her had altered, roaring engines instead of the quiet neighborhood hum. Are we in the road?" Mia had asked, fear creeping up her spine. "Find your own way home," Eleanor had spoken, voice cold, as she pushed the wheelchair one last time out of her way. "And don't ever come back to Clearwater Heights." Mia had stopped cold, stricken with terror. Without a way to see and no reference point, she was completely lost. Engines rumbled past her. She could sense them, vibrations rocking her wheelchair. "Help!" she had cried out, voice trembling. "Please, somebody, help me!" A second car horn blasted out, closer this time. Frantically, Mia attempted to wheel her chair in the direction of the sound, but she didn't know which direction was safe. She spun her wheels back and forth, but couldn't begin to determine if she was getting closer to the curb or farther into harm's way. A horn blared, this one close enough to make her jump. A car sped by, the rush of air blowing Mia's hair back as it zoomed past. "Mia!" The voice cut through the bedlam like a lifeline. Her father. "Dad!" she shouted, instinctively wheeling in the direction of the sound. "I'm here, I can't see. I don't know where I am." A sudden shriek of brakes was followed by another car missing her by inches. Then, racing footsteps. A few seconds later, firm hands clutched the handles of her wheelchair and pulled her to safety. "I've got you, Mija. I've got you," Officer David Martinez kept saying, panting and shaken as he pushed her onto what felt like a sidewalk. Mia reached out to him, holding on as sobs racked her. "She pushed me, Dad. She pushed me into traffic. She just left me there." David stood still for a moment. When he did speak, his voice had changed. Cool, controlled, but with an anger Mia had never heard. "Who?" "The HOA lady," Mia strangled out. "Eleanor Blackwell. She said I was trespassing. Said my wheelchair was hurting their sidewalks because I'm not a resident." And around them, irate voices were growing louder. "I saw the whole incident," a man testified. "She took hold of the girl's wheelchair and pushed her out into the street, then just walked away." "I recorded it on video," someone else said. "Began taping when I saw that woman screaming at a disabled child." "Officer," a woman interjected, her voice tight with anger, "she told your daughter to find her own way home. She meant to hurt her." David's posture stiffened, his jaw clenched. Then with unnerving calm, he placed a hand on Mia's shoulder. "Stay right here with Mrs. Chen, okay?" "David," Mrs. Chen warned quietly. "I'm not going to do anything," he said, his voice steel, "except my job." "She headed back towards the clubhouse," someone yelled. "That white building with columns." Mia heard his deliberate footsteps receding into the distance. Mrs. Chen squeezed her hand lightly. "It's all right, dear. Your father will handle this." Mia clutched the armrests of her wheelchair, still shaking. "Why would she do that?" she whispered. "I could have been killed." "Some individuals," Mrs. Chen spoke quietly, "place more value on property than on people. But not for much longer, I believe." 20 minutes went by. Then there were the sounds of returning footsteps. Two pairs, one firm and steady, the other uncertain. The click of Eleanor Blackwell's heels no longer rang with confidence. "I already explained to you. It was all a misunderstanding," she persisted, her tone missing its previous venom. "Save it for your statement," David snapped back. Then his voice softened as he addressed Mia. "Are you all right, Mija?" "I am now, Dad," she replied, holding on to her white cane, still shaken, but safe. "Officer Martinez," Eleanor attempted again, now nearly begging. "Surely we can work this out without charges. The HOA would be delighted to—" "Eleanor Blackwell," David interrupted, badge shining and voice stern, "you are being arrested for child endangerment, assault, and reckless behavior. Knowingly put a visually impaired minor in the midst of traffic, substantially endangering her to serious bodily harm." "This is absurd," Eleanor stuttered, her voice rising in desperation. "I was merely walking her off private property by leaving a blind kid in the middle of a crosswalk." David was icily quiet. "The same crosswalk where I guide kids through every school day? The same one where I almost saw my daughter get run down." Click. The harsh ring of handcuffs clicking into place hung in the charged silence. "You are entitled to an attorney," David started, sounding detached and officious as he recited her Miranda rights. "Anything you say can be used against you in a courtroom." Murmurs of approval ran silently through the gathered crowd as the onlookers watched in speechless amazement. Somebody lightly touched Mia's shoulder. "I posted the video on our local news," a teen whispered. "No one deserves to be treated like this." Mia rolled confidently along the same sidewalk. Her cane stowed safely in her lap. Her ears caught every noise with pinpoint accuracy. Bird song in the trees, a nearby child's laugh, the distant clicking of a crosswalk signal. The space felt and looked entirely different now. Bright tactile paving lined each crossing. Tone signals beeped and counted down at every intersection. Braille signs indicated every street corner. Sleek, broad ADA ramps facilitated every transition for wheelchairs. Approaching Clearwater Lane, a friendly, comforting voice spoke up. "Good afternoon, Mia. Ideal day to be outdoors, isn't it?" Mia smiled, recognizing the voice at once. "Hi, Mrs. Chen. How is the new council going?" Mrs. Chen smiled. "Great. We just funded that accessible playground you proposed, and your father's community safety initiative unanimously passed. After Eleanor Blackwell's arrest, things shifted. The video of that horrific day had gone viral, bringing national attention to the way people with disabilities, particularly those with multiple disabilities, were treated. With public pressure, the Clearwater Heights Homeowners Association had a complete leadership change. Mrs. Chen took over as president, and David Martinez was made the community's safety advisor. Eleanor Blackwell was found guilty of endangering a child and sentenced to 18 months probation and 500 hours community service, namely at the Center for the Visually Impaired and a Mobility Rehabilitation Center where Mia herself had worked. The judge also required her to undergo comprehensive disability sensitivity training, but most significant of all was the change that occurred when the City Council enacted MIA's law, a new city ordinance mandating audible pedestrian signals at all major intersections, tactile ground surface indicators for blind people, Braille street signs, accessible sidewalks and ramps in all new construction, penalties for any intentional endangerment of disabled people in public places. Mia waited at the corner, hearing the beeping signal. She grinned to herself. She was more than just the girl who'd been left behind in traffic. She was the reason why her city would never again let that happen. "Only if I choose the toppings," she said, a mischievous smile on her lips. David chuckled, tension of the day leaving his face. "Deal. But no pineapple this time. I beg you." "No promises," Mia teased, opening the door and gesturing for them to enter. Their house, once so full of uncertainty, now felt warm, safe, and not only safe in a physical way. Safe because her voice counted. Because she counted. As they sat down to dinner, the smell of melted cheese and tomato sauce wafting through the kitchen, Mia felt a stillness come over her. She'd battled danger, injustice, abandonment, and had come out the other side tougher. Not only tougher, but louder, visible, heard. The world around her was different, richer, more diverse, kinder, because of her tale, and only the beginning. Tomorrow she'd sit in the council meeting, not as a victim, but as a leader, as a champion, as Mia Martinez, the woman who made pain give way to progress, silence give way to change, and sidewalks give way to paths to a fairer world. Mia smiled. "Only if we can add pineapple on it." David pretended to be in agony. "The things I do for love." As they entered their house, their laughter ringing behind them, Mia's mind flashed briefly on Eleanor Blackwell, the woman who had sought to erase her, to diminish her to a problem, an annoyance, a stain on an otherwise perfect community. Eleanor had employed power to exclude, but in the process, she had inadvertently ignited the fire that enabled Mia to discover her voice, her power, not despite her disabilities, but because of them. Every obstacle Mia had overcome had tempered toughness. Every obstacle had strengthened her resolve to create bridges. And ultimately, it wasn't Eleanor's eyes that had failed. It was her vision. Because the reality was, Mia had never truly been invisible. She had merely been underestimated. And now the entire world was watching.